Was it Andy Warhol that said everybody's going to have a podcast for 10,000 hours? Well, now I have one.
Says what he wants, but he's uncontradicted. He's a man of conviction, but he's never been convicted.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show, Man of Conviction. This is my podcast. I'm Matthew Gossin, and I'm going to be your host. It's me talking to people in the entertainment realm, comedy, TV, film, behind the scenes, in front of the camera, kind of an insider's guide to the entertainment world. My next guest is Daria Benedict, also known as Daria of Change, a very cool woman who I met on The Tonight Show, and she wrote the music that you've heard at the beginning, and there's a full version at the end you're going to hear. I thank her very much for that. So let's get to the interview, shall we? All right, everybody, we are here with Daria Benedict, also known as Daria of Change. Welcome.
Hello. Oh my gosh, it's so magical here. Thank you for having me.
It is truly my pleasure.
It's awesome. Your first episode was amazing, by the way. Rogalski, just like blast from the past. But I learned so much that like I didn't know, about you, about him, about the industry, about history at the Tonight Show. It's awesome.
Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Yes. Dave was very nice to come and be my first guest. I was very honored, honestly, by that.
I love it.
So, tell us about yourself. Where did we meet?
We met at the Tonight Show with Jay Leno.
This is going to be a theme, people. You're going to see many of my best guests are going to have come from my years on the Tonight Show.
Because we were a family there, though. Like there's very few places like that ever, and even now at all in entertainment. I feel like we're just a big family. It's like something you can't explain to people, where every day on such a schedule, you were in at a certain time, out at a certain time, meetings exactly at the same time every day, hiatuses at the same time. Like we did everything together on a schedule.
It was a very well-oiled machine, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. And like lasting friendships, obviously.
There was probably about close to 200 people that worked on that. I mean, and I have remained close to many of them and still are in contact, at least on Facebook, with most of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, it's also like Ross was my like foray into you. Actually, I don't know that I would have gotten to know you as well if it weren't for Ross Matthews, our friend.
Yes.
Who started out as Ross the intern there. And he and I were like 27-year-old, like we felt like kids, like cutting our teeth, in like the TV biz, and would like run around NBC and go like, they let us do this. They just like let us run around, do what we want and get free lunch and like be in the edit bays and the control booth and at rehearsal. We were like, what is this life? And we're still like dear friends to this day,
Yeah, Ross is great. Hopefully I'll get him to come on the podcast at some point. I'm sure he'll make some time for me.
I'm sure he will. He loves you. You joined us in Palm Springs for when he got his Walk of Fame star there.
I did. I shot the video for that. That's available on his website. That's yes, a well-deserved star. I'm sure there's more stars in his future.
Oh yeah, many. He's awesome. I was actually on his podcast. When he started Straight Talk with Ross Matthews, he called me up. I actually happened to be working at Participant Media at the time, and it was right across the street from Podcast One Studio. So like on Tuesdays, I would just like leave work 10 minutes early and walk across the street and grab a bottle of like champs or wine, and we would just like drink and eat and record 3 hours of podcasts. It was the best.
I remember.
So
I'm a straight talker from the
right.
beginning.
You've been in the
not
groups.
Forget. I have. I started listening to him on the first episode. It's a very entertaining show for sure.
It is. It was fun. Actually, that's a great community. Like I still keep in touch. Like that, the Facebook group that we have for that is like great. I know you've got a Facebook group that you started for this podcast. I'm sure it'll become something like that.
Thank you. I hope so. Yeah, Man of Conviction Podcast on Facebook, manofconvictionpodcast.com or manofconvictionpodcast@gmail.com.
Now say that 3 times fast.
Tell me about your interesting, well, first let's say jak się masz.
Oh, dobrze. Dziękuję, że się pytasz. I'm Polish.
Yes. I'm fascinated by languages, and I remember hearing, oh, she's Polish. Okay, so that's always like in the database in my mind about you, that is right up there as one of the top bullet points, just in my mind. Yeah.
Well, it was my first language. I'm ESL, baby. So.
Yeah. Well, you never know.
I know. Let's certainly speak a lot in English.
So you came here to the States when you were how old?
2. So we were actually refugees on political asylum, and we lived in a refugee camp for 6 months in Vienna, Austria. But it was like, your face is
Wow.
like, what?
Cool. I mean, not cool, but
Yeah.
wow, good podcast material.
Good story, Daria. No, and when I say refugee camp, I don't air quote it, but it is sort of air quotes. It was like, a bunch of young families with young kids that were trying to leave Eastern Bloc countries during the Solidarity movement, it was like early 80s.
Sure.
And so the wait for visas was really long, and they wanted to go to, I believe, South Africa, which is a good thing we didn't go there because then all that apartheid stuff happened after. But,
Oh, man.
the wait for visas for Australia was like a year, South Africa was a year, and then the US was like 6 months. So we were like, okay, we came here and got placed with a sponsor family in New Mexico for like a few short weeks, and then my dad drove to the ocean to check out what was going on like in California, and like drove right back and just like pack up the stuff, we're going to California. And
Nice.
we've been here since. So I grew up like a valley girl, really not far from where we are now.
Interesting.
Yeah, Van Nuys was where we lived.
And only child?
No, oldest of 3. And the only one born in Poland, though. Then my sister was born here. And
So you got old school cred.
oh my God, yeah. They were so strict with me. Like my curfew was 11 o'clock till I was 18. That's why I moved out when I was 18.
And was it strict? Like if you showed up 11:15, that was a problem?
Yeah, I came home early one night and I got in trouble. Like, I mean, it was just like they were so strict because
I did not tell you to come early.
yeah, it was like, what? No, you came home early and you went across the street to see the neighbors? What? Who does this? I was like, what? They told us they were having a block party and I wanted to see what was going on. Like, it was just,
Wow.
they were very strict. But then, like, it's a funny story. Like, when I was younger, I really wanted to, like, I wasn't allowed to wear makeup. I wasn't ever allowed to date boys. Like, none of that stuff. And I got, like, straight A's was, like, varsity sports.
Until 18?
Until 18, yeah. There's still that, like, whenever I see my parents, they're just like, will try to correct something about me. I'm almost 40, so like that's just the Polish way. That's how Polish parents are.
Wow.
So like with me, I wanted to be a waitress when I was younger, just to like start making money because I was like babysitting and being an au pair. And it was like when I was really young. My dad's like, no, you will not serve men food. And I was like, okay, well, I appreciate the like somewhat feminist approach to that. But then a few years later, my sister ended up working at Hooters. So I just think it's such a funny shift on how they treated me versus.
Well, she needs to make money.
No, they were so strict with me. Like I would get grounded for getting like B's and C's on tests because school in Poland is like notoriously hard, and here the stuff was like.
I mean, it seemed to work on you. You seem to be an exemplary student, right?
Oh my, I don't know about that, but thank you.
You get good grades, and
Yeah.
the teachers love you, right?
Yeah, they did. I talked too much in class, but it's because I always have questions and I'm interested, and that's how I learned. So. But yeah, I got good grades, and I went to school at a magnet school not far from here as a law and government magnet, and so we were like just a highly competitive group of motivated students who like wanted to be lawyers that save the world, so
Debate club and
yeah, I wasn't actually in debate, but like all of our classes, like our history class was civics, it's like California civics, and then like senior year it was international law, and we did constitutional law, and we actually had a fully functioning courtroom.
Wow.
Where like during the 94 earthquake, the Van Nuys courthouse held court in our courtroom because their structure was damaged in the earthquake.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, not awesome, but yeah, it was that ready to go.
Yeah. Oh, I interned for Chris Darden. That was like one of my right after the OJ trial. We watched the OJ trial in class in like one of our history law classes together.
And
like,
you
live.
went and got you interned for him.
Yeah, and that was like 2 years later. But we had internship opportunities. Like we had to senior year, and it had to be in like the legal realm. And he was a professor at Southwestern or Northwestern Law University. It's somewhere here in LA, and they needed mock jurors for his senior students' final trial. That was like their final mock trial for his course. So I got to be like a mock juror, and
wow,
yeah, it was crazy. I really wanted to be a lawyer for a long time.
Yeah, I think my 13-year-old might make a good lawyer. I try to have discussions with him about like guns, and he's very like pro Second Amendment, and he shuts me down every time.
Oh my gosh,
I'm
really?
like, oh man, this kid's good.
He logics the fuck out of you.
Yes,
can
he
I curse
does.
on this?
You
Sorry.
sure can. Oh yeah. Well, now it's going to be in the explicit category. That's just fine. So, what was your first foray into the entertainment or television or advertising world?
Yeah, so it was actually advertising. So it was like Goldilocks and the 3 ad agencies, basically, right? So I was at a really, really big one. super stressed out. I had my first nervous breakdown when I was like 24 working there, you know, just the stress and the pressure. And
Oh, man.
just like wanting to succeed and wanting to be good, but it was very cutthroat, you know. Then I moved over to a mid-size agency that did, where I got to do like Fox and Paramount was my big client. So I did all the Star Trek, like special DVD packaging, like for Voyager and original series, you know, like those cool, like hard shells that nobody really buys anymore, but that were like specialty printing.
Collector's items.
Yeah, it's collector's items. I'm such a nerd. I have a ton of those. I worked on like the Titanic re-release DVD, you know, just worked with great like studio clients. And then like that was also their super mean to like all of their agencies and stuff, but like I did well there, but then thought, oh, maybe this isn't for me. And then I went to a really tiny agency. So it was like I went to the big one, the middle one, and then like the small one. And then so each of those I was at for 2 years. And then I realized, oh crap, I'm in the wrong industry. It's not that the size of the agency, you know, that is what is causing me to kind of like run out of fuel after 2 or so years at a place. You know, it was something else. And it was, I went to the client side and I realized I was an account exec on the advertising side. And those days you weren't supposed to be like a creative if you were an ad on that account side. You took care of the client, you did the martini lunches, you did the invoices, the budgets, the estimates, the comps, the schedule, all that. But like you couldn't have an idea to an art director, even though everybody can have good ideas, you know? And so like I'm fiercely creative. And I think like since then I never looked back and was never afraid to use like creativity in business because I think it's an asset, you know?
Well, something interesting, people don't necessarily think, you know, advertising is part of the entertainment industry, but as an editor, someone once said to me, don't forget, you just make stuff that goes in between commercials.
Ew.
So we're there to create stuff to keep people there so that they will watch the advertising. Never forget that. And I was like, that is a soul-crushing thing you just told me.
Yeah.
But it's true.
Yeah, I mean, it is, but what, like, that's not a motivating speech.
No, it isn't. It isn't. It makes you go, wow, that's right. TV is full. And then I guess you think of HBO and, well, they make all their money through subscriptions and they can not have commercials. And I do like watching that network, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree. I'm like, listen, and I get the business aspect. It's like you're going to pay for good content usually somehow, whether that's a pre-roll ad that runs for 30 seconds before an online video, or if it's commercials, or if it's a subscription you pay to a service. Like, I get that. I just have a problem with how that guy put it, because it's like you could be like, well, yeah, you're only going to be undead for another 20 or 30 years because the human lifespan is 70 years. You know what I mean? Like, it's just the way to put it.
You're right.
So like,
it just flipped it, and I thought, well, I guess if these advertisers didn't exist, these shows wouldn't exist.
Yeah.
Television, like network television, would not exist without the support of advertising.
Yeah, absolutely. And advertisers nowadays too, like I love that they're, you know, getting involved in helping give back to the planet, because we can't just be like, you know, I'm all about like fighting for the environment and social justice and all that. And a lot of people will be like armchair activists and be like, oh no, that's a big corporation, you can't trust them. Like, well, we still can't have a real conversation about real solutions if we don't all have a seat at the table. So if they're taking that money and doing good with it, like this is something I did when I worked at Participant. To zoom to the very opposite end of my career, a few years ago, my last corporate job, I was the vice president of digital social impact at Participant Media. So Participant makes, and we had a TV network and a website as well, and we made socially relevant docuseries and scripted series, you know. And so we were always dealing with advertisers and sponsors as well. So we learned a lot of like impact studies and cases. And something like, was it Pepsi makes Lay's, like the potato chips, right?
Right.
That when they decided to like, or it was like, it was the example of like McDonald's, when they decided to include sliced apples in their Happy Meals, overnight they helped rescue like small farms across the country that now had work like forever, you know. And like, or Costco going organic with a lot of their stuff, and us going out and buying it, that helps, you know, organic farmers stay in business and actually grows, you know, the business and reduces prices for consumers. So I'm all about the symbiosis between all those things working together. That doesn't mean the content has to be bad.
You're right.
Or like sucked, you know.
That makes me feel better, what you just said.
How old were you when they said that to you?
Oh, this was probably maybe 10 years ago.
Gotcha. Okay, so 10 years ago to you, that's what we're telling you.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't mean you have to make crappy content and sell your soul, right?
No, and maybe that's why I'm doing less editing. Maybe people are not hiring me anymore because I scoff at the content. I don't know.
Well, you get to be choosy too. Like you're great at what you do and you have an impressive resume. So like you should be selective about what you spend your energy on, you know?
Yeah, time is more precious as you get older. That's for sure.
Facts.
And more and more tired.
Yeah. Oh my God. Tell me about it. Oh my God. I know. But yeah, and money, you know, honestly, money's only one way to measure value, you know, or
For sure.
benefit. Like it's a way that we all need basically. But it's like, it's not the only way, and it's not the only way we should think about our gifts and our time and our skills, I believe.
Quality of life,
Mm-hmm.
happiness quotient.
Yes.
Yeah.
All of the above.
Yeah. And so after you turned your back on advertising, is that when you came over to the Tonight Show?
Yes, you guys were my first foot in there. It was, I'd had this like actual like nervous breakdown where I was like, I'd made my certain way up to a certain salary level at a young age where I was making good money. And that was my skill set, was like, that's what I built my career on, you know? And I was like, but I don't want to do it. I can't start at the bottom somewhere else. I mean, I could, but like, you know, you just become accustomed to a certain pace and lifestyle. And like you now have bills to, you know, offset that lifestyle and a certain salary you're used to. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I just decided to surrender to the universe and just put it out there, like even to myself, and say like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm finding something new. And I just moved into an old loft building that was renovated in downtown LA. It was like 2006. And Bob Reed was my neighbor, who is from our Tonight Show friend.
Okay. Oh, so that's how you...
Yeah, I met him and he told me that they were looking for someone digital. I'm like, well, digital is, when I was in advertising, I love print. I still love print, but I knew that it was dying. So I started jumping on all the digital projects because I loved it. And I was like the youngest person always in my job, you know, and so they would always throw them to me anyway because they didn't understand it. But I also saw print dying and I knew it was a smart space to jump. And so digital was a part of my skill set. And Bob was like, I think they're looking for someone. And they had no idea what they even needed. They just knew that they needed a digital person. And they hired me. I was fortunate enough to go, you know. Larry and Debbie interviewed me and I was like, oh my God, I found my home planet. Like, producers, this is what I'm like. You know, I think at the end of the day, like, a lot of us are producers. Like, we create things out of ideas and emails that where nothing existed before. We make sound, we make picture, we make websites, you know, whatever. Like, we produce things.
Yep.
And but then they had me interview with Ed O'Donnell randomly. Did you know that?
Ed O'Donnell.
Rosie's brother, who I love to this day. We're still friends to this day.
Wait, did he work on the show?
No, he was the SVP of marketing at 30 Rock, at NBC 30 Rock.
Oh, okay.
And he would come out, and I guess like this was one of the shows somehow. I don't even understand how he inputted, but he was the final say in my interview process. I interviewed with Larry, then Debbie, and I was like, yes, like I feel like we understood each other. Like this could actually work out. And then they called me and they're like, we want you to meet with Ed O'Donnell. I was like, huh? And they're like, yeah, he's Rosie's brother. You know, he works in marketing and he understands much more about that stuff than we do. So we want him to ask you some questions. And I was like, fuck. Like, I was so nervous, but he was so nice. Yeah, but I thought I bombed it. Actually, I didn't think I got the job after our interview because he was like, we met at like a bar at the Four Seasons where he was staying or something downstairs in the lobby. I'm like, how will I know who he is? Like, he looks just like Rosie, just like a guy, you know, like they have similar features. And so sure as shit, I found him and he's like in a suit, very not Tonight Show. You know, we were very like casual, like a suit from New York. I was like, oh my God. And we had a good conversation. He asked me a lot of questions. He's like, would you be able to write like a 2-page marketing plan in 24 hours? I'm like, if someone showed me how, I've never had to do that, but I'm sure I could. But like, I was like, am I supposed to know how to do what? Like, it was like, and I really thought I bombed. And then they called me and told me I got the job and that Ed loved me and we're friends to this day.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when did you leave the Tonight Show?
Oh, after I was on the Jay Leno show as well for a few months right before we got canceled. So yeah, so almost 4 years.
Almost 4 years.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, that's a great run.
Fun fact, you know that our show never was digitized because, you know, Rick edited tape to tape, right? Was never digitized until we had to set up a workflow where like a PA would have to wait for that first tape to come off of like when they uplinked it up to the satellite, take it across the street to that production house that was there, I forget what they were called, and they would digitize it and then cut out the music stingers that we didn't have clearance for that I had to give them notes on, and then upload this digital file that at the time was like so hard to get the specs right to, from like an Aspera server up to iTunes, because they wouldn't take it if it wasn't processed and done in time for people on the East Coast to get to watch it on their way into work, like on the subway and stuff.
Wow.
So we had to come up with like an entire process, which I love those kind of situations though. It's like, how do we logic this? How do we like make a workflow, you know, that will make the workflow?
And it happened.
And it happened. Yeah. So we did iTunes and then Amazon, and then we started doing like a lot of fun digital stuff on the site, you know, the John and Ross show, and like we did digital show. We went behind the scenes at the Tonight Show, and then what else? Laugh Squad with Bob Reed and Ross Mark.
Yep.
Then all the like the Green Card Challenge and like, you know, the outdoor concert series. We got to shoot content and like interview the guests. It was like the best. Just ran around with Karush with a camera and like, you know, made stuff.
Yeah.
It was so fun.
Those were good times, for sure.
Yeah.
I miss the steady dough.
Yeah. Oh, preach.
Yeah.
But, it can become velvet handcuffs too,
For sure. Yeah, I call them golden handcuffs.
I call them velvet handcuffs. I like velvet. It's just softer.
Velvet's definitely a better. I'm going to use velvet now.
Yeah. You may. Permission granted. No, but it was like what I learned from that job was that like I love doing digital. I love all of this stuff that we're doing, but I never grew up loving late night comedy. And I love to laugh and I love comedy and I love Jay, but like, my family was like this hardworking immigrant family and went to bed early, and they didn't stay up. And that was also not culturally something that they were used to, of like these late night shows that we have this amazing history of here in the States. So I was like, okay, what if I applied, the things that I loved about my job and now picked a direction more towards where my passion is, and so then I worked at the Oprah Network. Next, we launched the whole Oprah Winfrey Network. So I'd made a list actually of other TV networks that I liked watching, which was like History Channel, Discovery Channel, TLC, Bravo. Like I love like docu-series content and also some really vapid housewife shit, so I was trying to come up with a list, and I went to this network mixer at the Comedy Store actually. Comedy Store's the ones on Sunset, or no, Laugh Factory.
They're both on Sunset, I believe.
Crescent Heights, like the one that's right across.
That's Laugh Factory.
Laugh Factory. Okay, yeah. It was like this digital mixer, and like happened to just be. It was like some stand-up comedy going on, and it was a mixer. And this guy next to me worked at some agency or something, and asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him I just was looking for someplace to go after the Tonight Show, and made a list of networks I like. And he's like, Oprah's launching a network and Discovery owns it. I was like, no. It's like, yeah, it's already like been, postponed once because they weren't ready, but I know they're hiring. And I was like, okay. And
how's Oprah? Did you deal with her?
Yeah. She's great. She's very, she's like isolated in the sense of like, she's got like her main people around her. Like
sure.
That's their job, is to like inform her of the things she needs to know about. She doesn't need to be in all the day to day,
Sure.
So it's not like she was like fully that accessible, but she's a very smart business lady and would come to like some of her high priority meetings and just like sit in the back quietly. And then if she felt like she needed to restate her intention for something or her thought on something, she spoke up and said it very like firmly, not mean, but not sugary. She was like, the reason we did the show was because of this, and she would speak when she needed to. And then otherwise it was pretty cool.
I've heard nice things from her, that she's all business, but she's very sweet.
Yeah, she's really nice. She would like just walk down the hall and like, she was Oprah, like her dog would be there sometimes, the Cocker Spaniel, Sophie, and you'd be like, oh my God, that dog has nicer hair than I do. She does. She smelled so good.
Shampoo every day.
I mean, I'm sure. It's just beautiful. It really was gorgeous hair on that dog.
Tell me about Daria of Change.
Daria of Change. Oh, so this was like a secret so well kept that I did not even know about her until I was like 37, like 2 years ago. It's the craziest thing. Like I grew up classically trained on piano, and I always loved piano. It was like still one of my greatest passions. And then I played like a self-taught on guitar, played flute for some reason in school, but don't ever pick that up. But now Lizzo's bringing flute back, so I've dusted it off. But music was always in my life. My dad is like this amazing musician, had like a band when he was in Poland when he was younger. And, so I was always like, okay, like you could be really good at this, like in a different way, just like it was just cool to see that in the house. So then when I gave myself a midlife retirement about 2.5 years ago now, I had gone through a breakup, like cashed out of my house with my ex. We were together for a really long time, and got my own space just for me that I made my magical wonderland. Had my baby grand piano in the dining room instead of a dining room table. Put my dining room table out on the patio.
And you can put your food on your piano if you need to, like have a place to set your dinner.
Yes, absolutely. Her name is Fred. Yeah, people have spilled stuff on it, which is not good because she's a 1924 Steinway baby grand.
Ooh.
Yeah, she needs the action replaced, but that's like 20 grand, and I'm like, like I can't. Like it plays, just the bottom of the forte keys won't hold tune as well. But anyway, I went back to like all of my love of piano. Like it was always, I played and trained till I was like 18, but then it was just like playing for pleasure when I could and when I had time. But I had time now, and I went back and pulled out all my old like sheet music for like Bach and Chopin, and like relearned songs that I learned really intricately when I was younger for like recital level, and then started to deconstruct music. I didn't know that this was going to happen, but like went back to the structure, of music, and like relearned it. And like, it's funny when you go back to something that you knew a certain way before, but when you're older and you have like a different perspective, or you're not like doing exercises every week for a teacher, I realized how much I had learned that I wasn't giving myself credit for, and how much I loved just making music just for myself. So started playing all the classical stuff, dusted off my technique, and then I love to do like cover songs just for myself. I would just like look up the chords and lyrics online on like 911 tabs or whatever, and would just challenge myself to just like pull up a song that I used to love, not listen to it, look at the chords, look at the lyrics, and just start playing and make a rhythm. Like, and forget all the classical training now. Like I threw it out the window and was like, I'm just going to make noise and tones. You know?
Cool. So cool.
Yeah. And I started doing that. And in the meantime was doing other stuff like writing and art and just like really exploring. I went to Peru, all these things. And then I came back and just one day I read a lot of poetry and stuff. But I was like writing down like this thought I was having that turned into a poem. And then the next day it was almost like it's gonna sound crazy, but the paper was like glowing at me. It's like, oh my God, it wants to be turned into a song. I was like, I wonder if I can do that. Just sat down at the piano. I was like, if this poem was a song, what would it be? And I wrote my first song, and then I listened to it and I was like, did I copy this from somewhere? This is actually good. Like, I'm a really tough judge of myself on many things because I like to be better at on all things, but I like to be better at things, especially artistic things. And then I was like, if nothing else happens, I wrote a song and it's a good song and I really like it. And I was grateful for that. And then I wrote 30 songs in 8 days. Like, I started making noise and pulled out GarageBand and all these things I'd been thinking about, these philosophies I'd gathered after, like, I became a philosopher for like a year and a half. That's basically what I did.
Awesome.
As many words I have to use in a regular language to describe concepts because they're very vivid in my mind. In music, it came out in these succinct beats where it was like I could take an entire concept that I've been thinking about philosophically and writing and, you know, publishing stuff about, and I could sum it up in 3 really easy like words. And it was a different way of thinking about the things I think about. And I felt like an autistic kid who got speech for the first time in their life.
I
so
think
weird.
It's like you found that awesome fishing hole, but you found a secret spot that's like, you know, tucked away in a cove that no one ever goes to, but all of a sudden you realize, wow, you just kept throwing your line in and you just kept pulling up these monster fish.
Yes.
And yeah.
Well, and then like jewels and like treasures, like it was like even more like shit that you shouldn't even find in a fishing hole.
I love it.
You know? And then I was like, and then I just kept writing music and making music. But yeah, it was like, for me, it was just like, I don't know what is going to happen with this stuff, but I know that I love doing it and I'm actually kind of good at it. And it's because I let go of all the structure. I'm not like trying to write a song, you know, to fit a certain thing, you know, all the time. It's like, well, with like your jingle, I love stuff like that too, because I love to then be like, okay, how do I apply this thinking to something that's more structured? So I actually like, was really excited that you gave me the opportunity for that.
Yeah.
So thank you.
She just offered to do it, and I said, yes, please. Here's some lyrics. Maybe throw those in, and bam, she wrote that opening little song you heard and that you will hear at the end as well.
Man of Conviction. I love it. It gets stuck in my head every time I listen to it. It's your lyrics were great for that, by the way. Did you have that in mind and just wrote it down, or were you trying to come up with?
No, I wrote that in a song years ago about somebody else, and I had changed. But the idea, it all started with that line of a man of conviction, but I've never been convicted.
I love it.
And I thought that's a weird turn of phrase, and I thought so I've always had that in my back pocket, and I thought this is the perfect time to pull it out. Yeah, it was more like walk the streets of Reno totally unrestricted. He was a man of conviction. And then there was something like what was it, smoked a little weed but was not addicted or something like and then ended with the convicted. And I don't know, I thought it was I always had that, and I thought whatever, so I twisted it to make it about me and then to throw it on this jingle for the name of this podcast. Oh my
God, I loved it. It was so great because you had the exact words that were needed. So it was just like feeling into that. And I love the direction you gave me. I actually think I made a little behind the scenes video as I was writing the beat for you. I forgot. I'll have to pull it up after we're done here.
Oh, we can put it on the website if we like.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Cause I think I just did like I was Stony Baloney, which, you know, like full disclosure, was Stony Baloney, I like to call it. But I like recorded like as I was starting the process. I don't know why I did it. For some reason I thought, oh, maybe like this will be nice to have. Well, I record everything like for myself. I document stuff because who knows where the journey is going to go. But like, sure. I know that like I want to remember it, you know, no matter what. And then if stuff does blow up, people will find that I've been putting these Easter eggs out there in the universe on my YouTube channel, even only if like 2 people watch it. And someday they'll discover it and be like, oh my God, like she's been putting this here since the beginning. You know, it's like my dream.
Nice.
But yeah, so the music just started happening. And then I started I was like, you know, doing my other stuff like work-wise that I had to start working again. But I treat my music work, not just making the music, but like social media. I code and program my own website, dariaofchange.com. You know, like that's part of my art, like is the memes I make on the Daria of Change Instagram and the posts. It's all like it's a mix of like my philosophies and my feelings and just like things I'm thinking about. And my whole thing with Daria of Change is just like I learned how to think for myself again. Like I bucked construct and re-examined which parts of construct work for me and which ones don't. If they work for you, that's fine. You don't have to be anti-construct just to be like a rebel. It's like sacred rebel is one of the early things that emerged for me. Is like how do we level up on stuff that we've learned that now we're like trying to better the more woke we become in all aspects of our lives and our culture, right? So like we used to say savage. Well, as a lover of language, I'm like, okay, cool. I love that what that denotes is like that you're passionate, that like you're going forth, like take no prisoners, but how about we make it less violent? Because that's the future I want to see, is a less violent, but still as passionate future. So how do we challenge ourselves, even like through art or through language to use another word that conveys the same thing? Okay, sacred. I'm sacred, not savage. So it's like these things come through me when I'm working on the music stuff. Thank you. And so think for yourself is kind of I just like always envision like when the first like EPK comes out and like people are interviewing Daria of Change and like, well, what's your message? Just think for yourself, or not think for yourself again, and then decide what you're going to do. Don't just do stuff off of talking points, that your political side or your team tells you to do. Like really think for yourself about everything. Cause I think we forgot how to think for ourselves. We've become like drones, and zombies.
Checking with our peers if what we're thinking is appropriate.
Yeah.
And how about just know that it is?
Yeah. And I'm not saying be an asshole. Like I don't, like I want to be kind to everyone and loving and just spread good vibes, like honestly through whatever I do, so, but yeah, like you don't like say what you think today. And if what you think changes tomorrow, say what you think tomorrow. I think either Hemingway said that or one of those guys.
Don't be afraid to change your mind. Yeah, that's for sure.
Because it changes all the time. Like, you know what? I used to hate Brussels sprouts and now I love Brussels sprouts.
And I crave them now. When I smell them, like, oh yes, bring it on. So I'm the same. And avocado, I don't know, in the past 10 years,
really?
I started to enjoy avocado. I was the green, mushy nature of it just sort of put me off. And I was so like, funny. And now I'm like, bring it on.
Well, and also we're like, California has the best avocados. Like when I have an avocado in New York, I'm like, oh, this isn't an avocado, like we just have really good ones, like in the winter, year
round. Yeah. Guacamole.
Yes. All the time. I love it.
That's what people dream about. They don't, the beaches, fine. It's the year round guacamole that they're jealous of.
Fun facts. But yeah, so yeah, with the music stuff, I approach promoting my music and my artistry and like the artist that is Daria of Change the same way I would do for my clients, because they're like, I consult for a lot of clients. I do social media. I did it for the Tonight Show. I set up Jay's Twitter and Facebook. Like I was the one who was running them and like set them up.
I did not know that.
And then he would like always joke on air that he didn't have social media. I'm like, but you do, and I'm posting on it. But it was so funny. It was and Jay's Garage, Jay Leno's Garage. Oh yeah, that was my thing too. Jay Leno's Garage. We started that back at the Tonight Show.
Yeah.
So like me and NBC.com, we were, and Karush and all those guys. Now I'm both the client and the agency for myself for Daria of Change. I look at it as like a business.
Well, I'm certainly going to be asking you for some tips on a few little things with this podcast. So
I would love to. I also love this kind of stuff. I just have always been a nerd. Remember I used to have the Geek Girl podcast a long time ago.
Yes.
Technology isn't scary. It's only scary if we think it's going to be scary.
Yep.
But for me, it's always been very connective, and it allows me to be creative and stay in touch with people. And so when I look at it like that, it's fun to figure out how to use it. So like I'm happy to help with anything.
I always think technology is just a helper. Like as an editor, you have to learn this software and this sort of technical terms and like where to find this effect or how to do this particular move or whatever it is. But once you get past that and you know how to do it, then you can just create. Then you can just sort of like, it's like, Photoshop. It's like, great, I know how to change the brush size and the color and the texture, and I can just paint. I don't have to like think about it. It's writing both.
It's just knowing that you can do so. What I love also about like the suite of software we use and create, whether it's like photo editing or video editing or whatever, is that there's multiple different ways to do any single like effect or thing you want to do, which to me is very like supportive of creativity. It's like, here, we all think differently. Here's a bunch of tools. Use them in combination to create the effect you want, And so, like, I think that's our AI, and our AI is getting really smart. I mean, like, software and everything and, like, our phones and all that, they're evolving with us. We created it. It is, if we think it's going to be the stuff of our nightmares, it will be.
It probably will.
If we think, but it's only if we think that. Like, if we think that it's going to be the thing that is alongside us because we actually created it and are helping raise it, if we raise it with love and like look at it and work together with it, it actually responds. Like, I know that sounds like crazy, but like, forever I used to just like use software a certain way, but then like I kind of went off of media and a lot of software for like that 1.5 year period where I was a philosopher. And when I came back into it, and there was all these new like bells and whistles and helpers and things, you know, like they'll have like tips, and usually I'd click out of that, but then I started accepting it, and I was like, oh my God, it's getting smarter and smarter and better for exactly these types of things we want to do. Like it really is, you know, rising with us in whatever way we're growing as humans. So like, don't be afraid of it, you know?
So when you took a 1.5 philosophy sabbatical,
Yes.
Did you tune out of social media? That you like tried as much as you can to like?
Not social media, only because that's never upset me. Like I like social media organically. Like I just started college when Facebook was created. Like I was there from the beginning of that kind of thing. And
right.
I not only love it as a tool for work because I have to know it, and I have to know how to
Sure.
create analytics and reports about it. But I have always just loved it for the reasons I stated before, you know, like creativity, connectivity. And so that's the one thing I didn't. But what I did was I got rid of like my cable TV. I became a cord cutter. I only watched stuff like I took a TV out of my bedroom and put up a projector only for like special films. Like I would watch like Moulin Rouge or like, you know, just like Cinema Paradiso, like things that were
I love both of those movies.
So good, Cinema Paradiso. But it was also honestly because after the election, especially because I was working on all that social justice stuff and all that, you know, it was like I just couldn't watch. I had a TV in my office always and always had CNN on, you know, so I tuned out of that stuff because I realized that I'd gotten kind of like, I think, depressed because like my literal work life changed after that. Like meetings got canceled with nonprofits we worked with because they had to go back to the drawing board on policy. You know, it was like very much affected all of us, but affected me especially like work wise. And so
Wow.
I just cut off a lot of that and then just started playing. Like I played with all the things I said I would do when I wasn't too tired after work one day, you know, all of the ideas I had and projects just to do them, not with any like output in mind. I didn't make like a deal with myself saying like the end of the first 6 months of, you know, taking this sabbatical, you must have written 3 books. Cause I have like 15 books that I've been writing for like 20 years. It was like, you have to finish, you know, but I didn't give myself any sort of deadline or any set of output expectation. That was just the permission to play and to just, you know, be the human I would be if I didn't have to work.
That's awesome. You're living my life, my dream life. Yeah.
Well, I was. Now I'm broke, but it's all worth it.
Yeah. I did golf this morning.
Did you? Nice.
So
I was like, I will legit live in your awesome treehouse. By the way, do people know that Matthew has a treehouse?
yes, I have a treehouse. I can post some pictures if you'd like.
Oh my gosh, I took some video. I'll pull some together and send it to you. But it's amazing. Like it's like a grown-up playhouse, treehouse. Grown-up playhouse is something different.
There's electricity in there,
Yes.
and if I could just seal the roof, which there's a few leaks in there, I could maybe Airbnb that bitch.
Oh my God, you totally could. They rent yurts on Airbnb.
Wow.
It's one of my favorite things to do is just look, even when I'm not going anywhere, I just like to see what's available like in LA. Like
A yurt in town, like in somebody's backyard?
Yeah, and they have like bubble, you know, those blow up bubbles. Like in the Hollywood Hills, there's like one of those blow up bubbles with like a bed and like Netflix in it, and like it's amazing.
Wow.
Yeah, the things people rent. Yeah, tree houses, they do boats. You could rent like a night on a boat, like just it stays in harbor and you just like sleep on the boat, you know, but there's so many creative you could totally Airbnb that.
I'm going to think about that.
I'll send you some listings.
So you have an agency called Halo of Change?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Halo of Change. So haloofchange.com. And the concept is that I do believe that like even if you're like a QA guy working in the back launching a big website that's for like social change or for whatever, like you may feel like you're not a part of the common good that's happening on a project or the common goal, but we're all ripple effects of change. So it's a halo of change, you know, like we can all create change. And again, because I was so steeped in social impact and just getting people to take action and sign petitions and pledges and all that stuff at my last job, like how to create change in the world really interests me just as like an ongoing question, how to best create change around in your own self and the world around you. And so Halo of Change was just like naturally the title.
I like the title very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, we focus on 6 key pillars. It's like campaigns, content, publishing, philanthropy. I donate 15% of all profits to a charity. I just decided to set it up like that at the beginning because like 15% of nothing is like not that much, you know, and then like never have to think about it again. I do a lot of social media stuff for clients. So I consult with different types of clients and stuff. And I'm also a part-time handyman. So
I love it. You can build any IKEA piece of furniture probably in a pretty fast, efficient way, I'm sure.
I can that, and then like I do like, you know, I mount stuff in people's walls, and I do like some like minor woodworking projects for them and help them like cut stuff out of their closet.
You are a Renaissance woman. You really do have like several things you do. That's very impressive.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, now I need to get a hold of it because I went like wild west for a few years, and I'm like, okay, Daria, you need to refocus now and like build back up some more capital, and you know, and then come back to earth.
Oh, the Wild West, though, you gotta visit every once in a while.
It is. And you know what? It feels good to make stuff with your hands. Clearly you make stuff with your hands, so you get it. Like, it feels good knowing that you can do stuff if you need to, or that you can be self-reliant, that you can be self-sufficient, you know, and that you could be of service to others who feel like they can't, you know, so.
Yeah. The latest thing I'm working on is being able to build a fire without matches. That's something I've always wanted to be able to do, and I cannot do it. I'm trying, and I'm going to do it.
Are you using a flint?
No, I think that's cheating. I think you have to do it.
Sticks and rock.
Yes.
And like, okay. And Bear Grylls that shit.
Yeah. I mean, I know sort of like theoretically how to do it. It's just making it happen and getting that spark and enough friction, and then having the right material to throw on there to get it going. And I'd love to be able to pull that off.
I believe in you. I just saw you. I had a vision of you doing it. Like, and you can do it.
Okay, thank you. Good. I will do it. Well, Daria, let me say thank you so much for coming. I really, really appreciate it. We can hear the flight. I don't know what flight that is, but it's landing at Burbank Airport very soon, and that's where we are. Sorry for that.
Well, you are so welcome, and it was such a pleasure to be here. Sorry if I rambled, but it's just so exciting, like seeing you, and there's just like talking about our lives and stuff, you know. And I haven't talked to you in a while, and I haven't talked to a lot of people in a while, you know, that knew me from the Tonight Show days. So there's just so much to catch up on. So thank you.
It was really great to catch up, and we'll do some more catching up once we turn the mics off.
Yeah.
That was Daria Benedict, Daria of Change. Interesting woman for sure. Again, I want to thank her for that music up top and what you're going to hear at the end. So thanks again, Daria. And please support this podcast through Patreon by going to manofconvictionpodcast.com and becoming a patron. Email me at manofconvictionpodcast@gmail.com. Follow me on Instagram, Man of Conviction Pod, or on Facebook, Man of Conviction Podcast. And if you're still listening, maybe leave me a nice review. Thank you.
Says what he wants, but he's contradicted. When it comes to boxers, the briefs, he's a little bit conflicted. Walks the streets of that and night, he's totally unrestricted. He's a man of conviction.